Welcome to today's lecture. Today we will be studying very important topics that are list, tuples, dictionaries and sets. I again Dr. Mukesh Nitin welcome you all to this lecture. So let's go to the screen and start our Python coding journey. In Python, today's topic we are covering is list. So lists are generally considered as an ordered collection of data or objects that are present in Python. The lists are used in order to assign different kinds of objects, and they are generally represented in form of square brackets. So now what we will do, we will assign a variable named learner id. Okay, and in learner id we will try to explain how we will represent the list, how the objects are being created, how lists work, and many more. So here in learner id, this is a variable where we will be teaching how to code for object. So as I said, the list is an ordered collection of objects and it is represented in form of square brackets, especially the big square bracket. So in that I will put the object. The first object I am putting is gene. Second, I am putting an integer which is an arbitrary integer, and the third I am putting a string type, for example user. Okay, so these three types of objects I put it in learner id, which is a variable and where you will be getting an idea of list. So list, first major formative promising thing is that list is mutable, means you easily add or delete the list. So now when I use learner id is a variable and I had put it in square bracket and put it in the objects, then I will call learner id. So it gives you or returns you the object of the element. But first the thing is that I forgot to connect it. So it is automatically connecting and analyzing. Once I press this one, it will give me the result. Once it is initialized and connected, it will give me the result. So whenever you open your notepad, the first thing is that you need to connect your notepad. Now I will go and code for new. This time what I will do, I will again use a variable, say list1. Okay, and in list1 I will put and assign strings 4, and then I will put list 2 and I will put the value, for example 18 and gene and 7. Okay, and 7. These are in inverted comma. Okay, because it has a string in it, so we have put an inverted comma along with the object. So when I call list 3, which is equal to list 1 plus list 2, and we call list 3, then it returns me the value of the elements that are present in our object in the list variables. Also, we can use empty list. In empty list, what it is, in empty list we can make a variable and we don't want to put any object in it. So what we will do, and why we are creating empty list, the empty list is generally created that in future if you want to add any kind of object, we can easily put it in list. That's why we are telling that list is a mutable objects where you can easily add or append your values in the list for future use. I call empty list it returns me with an object but it is empty. Now similarly I had also made many codes. So here if we want to accessing the positioning of the list, that also we can easily access. So now we want to learn how to access the list elements, specifically the list elements. So in that, if I do list 1 is equal to, if I put the elements 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and if I call list 1 bracket 0, so it will give me the first element 1. As in Python the calculation is generally carried out with 0, while in R it is in different form. So we will be discussing that in R, but while we are learning Python, the counting starts with 0. If we want, we can use the same element repeats to check other position also. So if I give 6, then what it will return? It will return the value 10 as 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position is 10th value. Okay. Today we will again in this code font we will be using non-listed object as built-in function in representation of list. Okay. So how we will represent it? For example, if we have a sequence and we want to represent it in a list, we don't have to assign its element, we just only have to assign its variable, and we enter it and it gives us all the elements present in sequence in form of list. So here what we are seeing that sequence was not represented in form of list first, but when we call it as a list, its all elements have been represented in form of a list. So this is also a syntax pattern which can be represented. Now let's use, if we want to highlight the list with multiple repeats of elements, what we can do, we make a variable, for example, where I am putting an element and it is given times 10, means multiplied by 10. That means that it is 10 times the repeat. So I again calling the variable. When I am calling the variable, it is returning me the result of elements of gene 10 times. Okay. Now I had already previously discussed with you the empty list process. If I have an empty list, okay, empty list is there which doesn't have any variable which we created previously, and when I add an element in it, I can easily add the element in it, and when I call it, it will return me the value, same value of 10. So till here we have studied how lists are being represented. We will be doing an operation that will highlight that in maths the sets are generally widely being used as sets represents the elements. So since I have already made this one, so I will add my code and I will let you understand what the sets are exactly. So as you can see, sets are generally, if we take a variable, for example a, and it has an sets which are represented in curly brackets 0, 2, 4, 5 and 7. These are the elements of set A. So if you want to represent those elements in Python, we can use same. In order to reduce confusion, I am using capital A. Capital A is equal to square bracket 0, 2, 4, 5, 7. These are the elements that are represented in form of a list. So how we are representing a sets in form of a list. Similarly, when we say in set that B is equal to 3 into x, where x belongs to A, means we have 3 multiplied by x, and that x is belonging to A containing the elements of the A. So when we press it, the result gives that every element that are present in A are multiplied by 3 and are represented as follows. So when we write the same command in Python, we used to write, since in order to reduce that one confusion, I am using capital B is equal to 3 into x for x in A, means x in A means our x variable is presenting and calling the value from the variable A, and it is giving B. So in Python representation, if we say control enter, so here A, as I represented capital A as our element representation, so it gives multiply all the element present in A and are represented in form of the multiplication with 3 into x, and are now currently the B elements, which are 0, 6, 12, 15 and 21. All are the multiplied with the integer 3, that is 3 times the x. So similarly, the mathematical operations can also be created. Now in list, we will study how to define comprehension, how the functioning of the comprehension works in Python. Functional method in order to define the list of comprehensions. So here what we will do, I will name, in order to do the comprehension, what I am doing, I am just calling, since I had already written the code, so I am using the variable name is equal to biotech, bioinformatics, data science and life sciences. These are the different kinds of elements in the list. So I am again using a variable called call, and I am calling that as a function of x.strip. This function is used for comprehension type, where for x is the name, means all the names that are present, name is the variable containing all the elements that will come and store in x, and it is represented in form of a strip. So when we call it, we get the elements as usual, data sciences and life sciences. I will again do this. Okay, now adding, if I want to add something, I will be adding it in this command line. So if I want to add elements to this, I can add it again in the element section only. There are other methods also, but now for simplicity I am again adding a method, simply adding the element here, biologist, as an element, and then when I call it, it will add the element and it will represent the element also. Since I forgot to give the comma, so it is done. Now I am adding a conditional statement to this in order to become more selective to our search. Means here I am adding some conditional statements in order to choose something specific from our elements, or in order to reduce something from our elements. So if I call this again, but here now I am putting a condition for x in name, we will extract only those with if bio in x. Okay, what I did, I had used a conditional statement that is signifying that in the strip where all the values are represented in X from name variable, where if means where I am calling if bio is any element starting any word that is present with bio in X gets highlighted and are called in the next element. So when I do this, you can see I am getting only those elements who are bio in this element. So like this we fetch the sequence data also in that. Now my next target is to adding new elements through coding in another method. So in order to add new element in the list, what we can use a function that is called append function, that is called an append function. So in the previous elements that we have, what I am doing, I am cross checking whether the data is not missing or not. Everything is done. Yeah, so the same elements I am using repeating again and again so that you can get very less confusion in it. So here the name variable, I have the element represented. I want to add one element, so I am using function name.append as biocoder, and biocoder is the new element that I want to add in the list. When I do it, it gets added in the list to our elements in the variable say name. Now my next task is to add the elements in a specific position of the list. In order to add in a specific position of the list, so what I will do, I will use, since I have to insert this one, I will use the command insert command along with representing the position where I want to insert our data. So in this, again I had inserted my elements in the variable and I am using the function name.insert. That was append, where I was adding the biocoder that is getting added in the last of the element. But here I want to specify that I want to add in specific position. So I want to add in 0th position, or I want to add in 2 position, I want to add in 1 position. Whatever position, this genomics will be added. So when I do this, this element is inserted along with the element in the name variable of the list. So you can see the genomics is added at 0th position in the list. Now we will be using another function. If I want to extend my list, what should I do? So I will be using extending function, which I already wrote to in our list. So when I put my elements in the list, you can see name variable of my elements, and I want to extend it. So I am adding name.extend, where I am adding some new elements to our list, zoology, botany, and some code. Especially code is an arbitrary which I made. So along with this, the new elements are also integrated along with the list, since lists are easily mutable and can easily be edited. Now we will use some other features. I want adding the elements in terms of sum. That means I want that we should add our elements in form of sum. So let's start. I am using a variable the same 1, 2, 3. These are more simple codes, and I am using the same variable. Then I will use add button, and I will use 4,6. Okay, and then if I call the name with plus sign also, it is adding the elements. Now that I did for integer also, that can also be done for string also. There is no issue in both. I want to use another command in order to remove the element from our list. So I am using my text editor where I already coded it. So I will copy my code. For example, this same element I am using name this biotech and biologist. Okay, in order to for continuation. So I am using the list with having the objects of same elements, where I will be using the element like biotech, bioinformatics, data science, life sciences, and biologist. So I will use name.remove command, where I will highlight and I want to remove a particular element of my desire. For example, I want to remove biologist. Okay. So with name.remove command will do, it will execute accordingly and it will remove an element from our list, that is biologist. So we can check it, and the new elements that will be displayed will be biotech, bioinformatics, data science, and life sciences, and biologist will be removed. Similarly, we can also delete the elements using delete command also. So for the same approach, I will use the syntax of delete function. Okay, so here I will use the same command, but I will remove it with delete option. The syntax of delete is, what I want to delete, I will delete the variable where which element I want to delete. For example, I want to delete again biologist, so I will use 5 for deleting this one. When I will press it, so it gives an, and why it is giving an error, because there are only 4 elements, because it counts from 0. So I have to remove this to 4, and when I will press it, it will return all the elements excluding the value 4. When I gave value 5, that means that was the element didn't present already in the list. That's why it returned value error. Now the same syntax have been used 2 times. Once we can use a remove function also, and the second is that we can remove the delete function also. Both can be done. Now I want to use copy function and pop function. These are 2 different functions that can also be used in list. So I will use the same element for our study. You can use different elements also, but we are using same elements so that you can get the concept more clearly without any confusion. So the elements which I have given as a variable, okay, I am assigning the new variable to the old variable, and what I will do, I want to use pop command. So this time I will use new.pop. What this command does is, it will copy the value of name into a new, and when I will be doing this, it will return the value, the last element present in the data. Okay, so the pop command is generally used to give the last element in the volume, but if I am using pop command for element 1, 2, 3, that was string, here we are using a new variable as that, and I am using the pop command. Again the pop command will add or return the value of the last element that we wanted to check. So it is returning the last element of this. Now along with pop command, I want to use copy command. So in order to use a copy command, what we have to do, we have to first import copy command so that it can execute. Then if I copy my variable and paste it, the elements are there. Now I want to copy the variable to this, so I can do that. New copy we will be using the command new variable, where we will be using the copy function, copy the name of the variable. And when we, so I want to use function copy here. So since I have wrote the code, so for that copying function I will use import copy. For importing copy, when I import copy function, the Python activates the copy function. I will use the same variable that we are using previously, name, biotech, this and this. So for that I am using a new variable where I am assigning the old values of the variable. So I will activate the copy.copy function of the name variable. Then I will use new dot pop function. Okay, and we will see what the result it returns. So when I using new dot pop function, it is returning the last value of the element in new. Now I want only new. I will call the whole variable new. When I am doing this, it is returning me the whole value of the. We will add a new command list where I want to add a representation of the elements. For this, what I am doing, I am using the same name variable, but here I am using the integer where I am putting and assigning the values like 1, 4, 7, 8 and 9, and I am using another variable to call the name variable, and here I am using a syntax here double apostrophe, means that this is also a method of representation of calling the elements present in the list, or you can say the objects present in the list. So when I do control enter, so it will return me the elements as it is represented here. Also, I can use the same string of elements that I was using previously. Here I am copying this particular list and I am again placing this list here, and now in this time again if I call it using semicolon, it will return all the elements, whether it's a string or an integer. So like this we can get an idea of representation of lists. Till now you have completed the list session with Python in great detail. The lecture became lengthy, so we are ending lecture 3 now, and we will continue the next session of tuples, dictionary and set in lecture number 4. Till now I hope that you have enjoyed our coding session with Python, and we will meet in next session of lecture number 4. Till there, have a nice day. Bye for now.